I extend my gratitude to the conference organizers and thank you in advance for listening. My work explores the concept of extraterritoriality as an invitation to navigate not only the margins of the legal, juridical, and spatial orders, but also the edges of forms of representation and poetics. The research builds on my long-term engagement as an artist and scholar, exploring extraterritoriality through the collaborative art project Extraterritorial, which has received worldwide recognition, including a UNESCO award. Conceived as a screening of a video compilation of works by Middle Eastern artists onto the sails of boats navigating in the extraterritorial waters, we experimented with the creation of an image of art exhibited in a neutral space, beholden to no national constraints. Since then, the project has pivoted on a cross-disciplinary practical and theoretical examination of extraterritorial phenomena in local, global, and technological contexts to distill the logic of extraterritorial representation. Consisting of the creation of artworks, scientific collaborations, advanced technologies experimentation, public events, and publications, the project led me not only to adhere to a committed search for the extraterritorial power of art, but also embark on a conceptual study of extraterritoriality as it emerged in different fields. In our context, I can share that the unique ability of art to instigate platforms for knowledge production in ways that transcend existing boundaries has been a project's motivation since the early stages. The exploration of extraterritoriality as a theoretical exploration materialized in a conceptual investigation introduced in an anthology co-edited with artist Ruti Sella, with whom I collaborate on the project, titled Extraterritorialities in Occupied Worlds, that brings together seminal writings for the first time, seminal 20th century writings on extraterritoriality from various disciplines alongside contemporary reflections, creating a dialogue between established theoretical foundations and emerging perspectives. A series of global symposia, hosted by institutions including the Cadist Art Foundation in Paris, Beit HaGeffen Culture Center in Haifa, and the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam, served as critical discursive spaces where scholars, practitioners, and theorists engaged with the complexities of extraterritoriality. These dialogues, emerging at the intersection of art, theory, and practice, have contributed to an expanding body of interdisciplinary knowledge that continues to interrogate the implications of extraterritoriality in contemporary discourse and praxis. It should be noted that the project aims not only to draw on existing definitions of extraterritoriality but seeks to reload it with new meanings, exploring how this concept helps view and grasp how phenomena transcend conventional representational boundaries and foster broader perspectives across disciplinary, cultural, and epistemological domains. This approach opens up new practical, theoretical, and poetical frameworks that challenge established hierarchies while imagining alternative modes of belonging and interaction. Here on the Anthology, in the words of the eminent sociologist Zygmunt Bauman.
A book was delivered to my house in Leeds, this one, and it's a great book. Great book because it doesn't remind you of any other, really. It is very, very original book, which is highest caliber empirical work and highest caliber theoretical work. Something like the great philosopher of 19th century, Hegel, name I hope familiar to you, defined philosophy, the substance of philosophy, what philosophy is doing. Philosophy at that time, I would like to recall, was still understood in its original meaning. Philosophy, love of wisdom. So what is the function of philosophy, he said, is to capture time in the network of concepts. And that's what this book is doing. It's trying to capture our time in the network of concepts, and it is tremendously topical, it is tremendously well aimed. It hits the bull's eye when it tries to capture the substance of our time in the network, in the net woven of concepts. Extraterritorialities in occupied world. I suggest to you that it is not just one project of two very nice people who came together and decided to see the issue of extraterritorial, bringing together the bits and pieces of knowledge from every possible branch of scholarship. I suggest to you that it is a central problem of our time. History of the time which we are living at the moment, who knows, perhaps it will be written in terms of the rapid and very profound changes in the idea of extraterritoriality and in the idea of occupation, particularly occupation in relationship to the world.
The conceptual boundaries of extraterritoriality have remained fluid throughout historical discourse, and its manifestation as a form of legal and political representation exhibits considerable heterogeneity across diverse contexts. Nevertheless, identifying recurring representational patterns provides genealogical threads through which to map seemingly disparate phenomena, both temporally and ontologically distinct, as they converge within the historical narratives constituting the conceptualization of extraterritoriality. The etymological roots of extraterritoriality, derived from the Latin extraterritorium, offer insight into its representational logic by literally combining being outside with territory. However, research literature identified extraterritorial representational practices existed long before the term's linguistic emergence, tracing them to the early periods of the second millennium BCE. Against this historical context, when absolute territorial sovereignty did not yet exist, extraterritoriality is understood as a unique form of legal representation that mediated between different systems of law through practices of legal tolerance as a means of resolving disputes. Extraterritoriality is used to describe a representational framework that enabled the exemption of foreigners from local laws while maintaining their connection to their customary law systems. Such representational arrangements emerged from various contexts: migration patterns, conquest dynamics, and commercial relationships. Historian Shalom Kassan argued that extraterritoriality was a kind of way to reduce fear of foreigners in an environment characterized by hostility between social groups against the background of deep differences regarding religious beliefs and cultural habits, and contributed to the flexibility of a separatist model that preferred exclusive belonging to one community of law based on religion, race, or ethnic common denominator. According to these studies, extraterritoriality emerged as a distinct representational modality, offering an alternative to uniform legal systems by enabling multiple legal frameworks and systems of belief to coexist, thereby constituting a concurrent form of governance that transcended narrow territorial conceptions of sovereignty. Our current era presents multifaceted planetary landscapes characterized by diverse hybridized cultural spheres, evolving geographies of information flow, network digital spaces, decentralized value monetary transaction economies, environmental metamorphosis, technological advances in artificial intelligence, content generation, and other emergent forms of human-machine symbiosis. These phenomena transcend conventional boundaries, reshaping our understanding of space, time, and agency while profoundly challenging established paradigms of social organization, authority, identity, and the human relationship with both digital and natural environments. To investigate these transformations, the concept of extraterritoriality emerges as a vital framework for reimagining cultural, creative, and interdisciplinary research in the 21st century. The concept of extraterritoriality invites us to imagine new forms of collective knowledge creation that transcend established institutional frameworks and thresholds of representation, just as extraterritorial waters provided neutral spaces for artistic dialogue. We might envision intellectual commons where knowledge emerges through a dynamic interplay of diverse cultural perspectives and ways of knowing. These spaces would operate through shared principles of recognition and exchange, where value flows from the richness of multiple creative intersections and the depth of collective engagements. Such knowledge-sharing ecosystems could foster new forms of scholarly and creative communities that honor multiple traditions of wisdom and expertise while developing novel forms of peer acknowledgement and validation. The evolution of knowledge emerges not to impose one form of understanding over others, but to foster the coexistence of diverse ways of knowing. In this vision, knowledge can develop through hierarchical structures alongside the many cultivated practices of mutual recognition, where different modalities of being can exist simultaneously, each enriching the others through their distinct presence and perspective. The concept of extraterritoriality invokes a fundamental rethinking of learning environments, pushing us beyond conventional spatial and institutional frameworks toward more fluid and dynamic forms of knowledge creation. Just as extraterritorial waters historically provided neutral spaces for exchange and dialogue, contemporary manifestations of extraterritorial thinking offer pathways for reimagining educational practices. These pathways extend from vessels navigating international waters to digital platforms and hybrid spaces, each offering unique possibilities for knowledge exchange, creating spaces where boundaries dissolve into possibilities. Through such experimental approaches, knowledge formation suggests not only alternative spaces for learning, but fundamentally different ways of conceptualizing how knowledge itself can be created, formed, shared, and validated across cultural and institutional boundaries. As we navigate increasingly complex global challenges, the extraterritorial framework invites us beyond linear coordinates into spaces where understanding flows through multiple dimensions simultaneously, allowing us to grasp phenomena through their overlapping echoes, their concurrent manifestations, and their ability to exist in multiple spatial and cultural vectors at once. This multivalent approach transforms how we sense, interpret, and engage with knowledge, moving beyond the Cartesian grid to embrace the rich topographies of human and mechanic understandings. As planetary challenges dissolve traditional boundaries, extraterritorial thinking emerges not merely as an option, but as an essential grammar for weaving new forms of understanding across the spaces between established territories, institutions, and ways of knowing. The ancient practice of extraterritoriality, born from the need to mediate between different systems of law and reduce tensions between social groups, offers profound insights into our contemporary moment. Just as historical extraterritorial frameworks enabled multiple legal systems to coexist, creating spaces of mutual recognition amidst deep cultural differences, today's planetary challenges call for similar innovations in how we structure knowledge exchange and community building. These historical patterns of extraterritorial thinking, where belonging was not confined to singular systems but rather enabled multiple frameworks to coexist, provide a valuable template for reimagining contemporary forms of knowledge creation and validation. As we face unprecedented global transformations, the enduring logic of extraterritoriality suggests possibilities for creating new spaces of understanding that transcend not only territorial boundaries, but also the limitations of singular institutional or cultural frameworks. In this light, extraterritoriality emerges not merely as a historical concept or contemporary necessity, but as a vital methodology for weaving together diverse ways of knowing and being in an increasingly interconnected world. Thank you for your attention today. I invite you to join us in this ongoing exploration as we forge new ways of extraterritorial community building, creating spaces where knowledge and solidarity flow beyond conventional boundaries.